Imagine this. A former First Lady, known for her grace and silence, suddenly throws herself into a legal battle with some of the most notorious talk show hosts in the country. Why would she do it? And what happens next? You won't believe their reaction when it all goes down. For years, Melania Trump lived in the shadows of public opinion, rarely speaking out or addressing the constant barrage of media coverage. Even after leaving the White House, she quietly maintained a low profile, seemingly content with the privacy she and her family were granted. But what the public didn't realize was that Melania's silence was not born of weakness, but of strategy. Behind closed doors, she had been observing. She was watching the way the media, especially late-night talk shows, twisted her words, mocked her gestures, and constructed narratives about her life that were far from the truth. At first, she let it slide. After all, she was no stranger to public scrutiny. But the jokes, the ridicule, and the distortions began to build up. They weren't just about her. They were about her family. They were about her dignity. The tipping point came when one of the most popular talk show hosts made a personal attack, one that was so blatantly false and cruel that it crossed a line for Melania. It wasn't the first time she had been the butt of a joke, but this particular incident felt different. This wasn't comedy. It was an assault on her character. After consulting with her legal team and trusted advisors, Melania made a decision that would send shockwaves through the media world. She was going to sue. Not just for defamation, but for the years of public mockery and humiliation. It wasn't about the money. Melania wasn't desperate for funds, but it was about standing up for herself and taking control of the narrative. She wanted to send a message loud and clear. She wouldn't be the media's punching bag anymore. The lawsuit was meticulously prepared. It wasn't just a simple legal complaint. It was a well-thought-out strategy that targeted specific instances where Melania had been misrepresented or attacked by media figures. The legal team dug deep, compiling a mountain of evidence, including video clips, transcripts, and witness statements that painted a clear picture of how the talk shows had crossed boundaries. The talk show hosts, who had once joked about her fashion choices, her speech, and even her accent, were now facing a legal battle they never saw coming. In the lawsuit, Melania alleged not just slander, but emotional distress. The impact of the media's behavior had been more than just surface level. It had deeply affected her, and she was determined to make it known. The lawsuit didn't just target one show. It aimed at several of the most prominent late-night programs that had consistently taken jabs at her. Melania's legal team demanded a public apology, as well as compensation for the emotional and psychological toll the constant attacks had caused. When the news of the lawsuit broke, the media was initially in disbelief. How could Melania, the former First Lady, who had long avoided controversy, suddenly be the one to step into the ring and challenge the talk show giants? There was shock, confusion, and a lot of speculation. Many of the late-night hosts themselves were caught off guard. The first to speak out was a well-known comedian with a reputation for pushing boundaries. He took to social media, mocking Melania's legal action as a publicity stunt. "What's next?" he joked. "Is she going to sue us for telling the truth?" But it didn't take long for the mood to shift. As Melania's legal team began to release the details of the case, the hosts started to realize the gravity of the situation. They hadn't just made a few lighthearted jokes, they had crossed legal lines. Suddenly, the joke wasn't so funny anymore. Behind the scenes, the talk show executives were scrambling. There were emergency meetings, calls to legal teams, and frantic discussions on how to handle the fallout. The public response was more divided than they had anticipated. Some people were applauding Melania for standing up for herself, while others were wondering if this was a step too far. As the lawsuit continued to make headlines, the public's perception of the talk show hosts began to shift. What had once been considered harmless comedy now seemed a bit more sinister. People started to question the ethics of late-night television. Was it right for hosts to use their platforms to publicly humiliate and defame public figures, just for the sake of a laugh? Some of Melania's supporters rallied behind her, calling for greater accountability in the media. They argued that public figures, especially women, were often subject to harsher treatment and ridicule than their male counterparts. It wasn't just about Melania. It was about standing up for the dignity and respect of all women who were targeted by the media. Others, however, saw this as an overreaction. They believed that talk shows were meant to entertain, not to be taken seriously. The hosts, they argued, were just doing their job by making jokes and poking fun at public figures. But even these critics had to admit that the level of scrutiny Melania had faced was unprecedented. As the days went on, the lawsuit became a hot topic of debate on every news outlet. People were torn. Some believed Melania had every right to defend herself, while others felt that suing talk show hosts was an attack on free speech. What was clear, however, was that Melania's decision had ignited a firestorm in the media, a firestorm that no one saw coming. As the days passed, the media circus surrounding Melania Trump's lawsuit continued to grow, leaving the talk show hosts scrambling to figure out their next move. The initial response, mocking her decision as a publicity stunt, had backfired. Their attempts to downplay the lawsuit were met with backlash, and soon, the tone on their shows began to shift. The first major host to address the lawsuit on air was the one who had made the most public jokes about Melania. With a smirk, they launched into their usual routine, trying to make light of the situation. But there was something different this time. An undercurrent of unease in their voice, a clear attempt to hold the situation together while privately wrestling with the implications. "I've always believed in the power of comedy," the host said, trying to keep the mood light. "But maybe we took it too far this time." There was an awkward pause, a moment where the audience could feel the tension. The host tried to crack a joke about lawyers, but it fell flat. The audience didn't know whether to laugh or cringe, and it was clear that the host was feeling the pressure. The days of making Melania the butt of the joke were over. Whether they liked it or not, they now had to face the consequences of their words. Then, something unexpected happened. Another host, one known for their more serious approach to celebrity culture, spoke out. They had long been a voice of reason, a counterpoint to the usual sensationalism that dominated late-night television. But now, even they seemed uncomfortable with the way things had spiraled. "I'm not sure this is something we should be laughing about anymore," they admitted on their show. "The lawsuit isn't just about Melania. It's about the culture we've created, where it's okay to tear people down just for the sake of entertainment." This moment of introspection hit home with the audience. The truth was that Melania's lawsuit had ignited a larger conversation about the role of comedy in the media, the responsibility of public figures, and the limits of free speech. The show's audience had been used to seeing celebrities and public figures ridiculed, but now they were seeing the real consequences of those actions. Was it worth it? The host didn't apologize outright, but their shift in tone was evident. They had moved from a place of mockery to one of reflection. It was a humbling moment for both the host and their audience. Behind the scenes, the networks were feeling the heat. Talk show executives, who had once been confident in their ability to ride out any controversy, now found themselves in damage control mode. The lawsuit wasn't just about Melania anymore. It was about the way the media had treated public figures, especially women, for decades. The pressure was mounting, and the networks knew they had to do something. One of the network's top brass, a well-respected producer, called an emergency meeting. "We've built our brand on irreverence, but this isn't just another joke. We're crossing a line, and if we're not careful, it could destroy everything we've built." The higher-ups were worried. They had never expected a lawsuit like this, one that brought a legal dimension to what had always been seen as harmless fun. The talk shows had always been able to brush off controversies, but this was different. This wasn't a celebrity fighting back. It was a powerful, calculated move that forced the media to reckon with their own practices. As Melania's legal team continued to build their case, the media's scrutiny intensified. It wasn't just about the lawsuit anymore. It was about a reckoning for the entertainment industry, a moment when talk show hosts realized they couldn't just do whatever they wanted without consequences. The public reaction to the host responses was just as divided as before. Some saw the shift in tone as a sign of growth, an acknowledgement that the hosts had learned from their mistakes. They praised the more reflective approach, believing that it showed maturity and an understanding of the broader issues at play. But there were others who were less forgiving. They believed that the talk show hosts were simply trying to save face, trying to distance themselves from the controversy without truly taking responsibility. They didn't think the hosts had learned anything. They thought they were just trying to protect their careers. On social media, the debate raged on. Some fans of the talk shows expressed disappointment, claiming that the hosts were caving to the pressure instead of standing their ground. They saw Melania's lawsuit as a way to silence free speech, a move that would set a dangerous precedent for comedy and satire in the media. But there were also those who cheered for Melania. They saw her as a symbol of strength, someone who refused to be silenced or made a target for cheap laughs. They believed she was standing up for everyone who had ever been unfairly portrayed by the media, and they applauded her for taking a stand. As the case moved forward, it became clear that the stakes were higher than anyone had initially anticipated. This wasn't just a celebrity lawsuit. It was a cultural moment, one that would shape the future of media and the way celebrities interacted with the public. Melania had become more than just a former First Lady. She had become a symbol of defiance, a reminder that even those who seemed untouchable could stand up for themselves. And in doing so, she had sparked a broader conversation about the role of the media in shaping public opinion and the ethics of celebrity culture. We've seen how Melania's decision to sue the talk show hosts turned the tables, creating a ripple effect that had everyone from the media to the public questioning their role in this narrative. The big question remains, how will this all end? Will Melania's lawsuit force a change in the way the media treats public figures, or will it be another chapter in the endless battle between celebrities and the media? What do you think? Was Melania right to take a stand, or did she go too far? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and let's talk about this shocking legal battle.